Welcome back to another episode of Ohio Tech Day TV. We're so glad that you're able to join us today in this celebration of tech and innovation across the state. We're excited to bring to you another conversation with tech pros that are doing something interesting and unique in a different part of technology that we haven't yet explored today, and that's in marketing and communications and kind of the public side and the customer facing side of technology careers. Which is a really exciting kind of place to be. You get to tell your customers and the public about what these companies are building. And so today we are joined by four tech pros that are going to share us what exactly they're doing in marketing and communications and branding, what their jobs are like, and how students that maybe have interest in that can potentially be it. Before we get going with our panelists, I want to point out is if you've been watching Tech Day TV, you've probably heard me say, but our logo on the top of this screen, this is part of marketing. It's marketing for Tech Day, and it was designed by Dublin City School students. It's an incredible piece that, I think is a perfect example of tech doesn't just have to be one type of skill set or one type of tech, but it can mean many things. And so without further ado, let's welcome in our panelists. So Karen, we'll start with you. Karen, if you wouldn't mind leading the way, where if you could just share a little bit about yourself, what role you have within tech, and then what your company does and in what part of the state you all work in.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us, Chris. My name is Karen Mauk. I'm a marketing director at Joot. We are a regulatory compliance firm located in Cincinnati, Ohio. We are a tech-driven services firm. So a lot of what I do is everything from website development and design to collateral, working on some of our events. I've worked with other folks on this panel to do different discussions and different, we have our Marcom roundtable. So kind of full spectrum marketing communication services, and I love every minute of it.
That's awesome, Karen. Thanks so much for joining. And as you mentioned, thanks for all that you've done to help kind of build out the Marcom community within Ohio. Steve, we'll go next to you. How about you? What part of Ohio are we talking to you from? And what does your company, Accent, do?
Sure. Yep. We're headquartered in Columbus, Ohio, and I've been in this industry for about 30 plus years. Actually, Accent, we take care of business communication services. So organizations that have multiple offices, we help tie all of their phone systems, internet services, their backbone for their operations. Since we've been in business for 30 some years, I've got some, I don't know if you can tell, I've got phone books behind me. We used to be in the business when phone books were a thing. And that was part of the marketing play at that time. But today, we're using more and more of YouTube and things of that nature. And we're looking for ways that we can actually reach our business community. So I help lead the charge there along with our marketing team.
That's awesome. Steve, thanks so much for being here. And we'll dive more into what you all are doing shortly, I know. But Nicole, welcome. Thank you for joining. And if you wouldn't mind, same thing, what you do, what your company, Pandata, does, and what part of Ohio we're speaking to you from.
Sure. Excited to be here. My name is Nicole McCaffrey, and I am the COO and AI translator at Pandata. What we do is we are an artificial intelligence and machine learning design and development consulting firm. It's a lot of words. So, the fact that we are an emerging technology, presents some interesting marketing challenges because, not only are we responsible for, marketing what we do, but it's also a lot of education around artificial intelligence and ways that businesses can be using it. So there is never a dull moment at Pandata when you're dealing with marketing, just like the rest of our friends here on this call. So that's what I do in a nutshell.
Thanks, Nicole. And Neil, last but certainly not least, if you wouldn't mind, same thing. What you do, what your company, Nonfiction, does, and what part of the state we're talking to you from.
Sure. Thanks, Chris. I am in Columbus, Ohio, just like Steve, and my company, Nonfiction, helps tech companies, startups, founders figure out how they're different and how to talk about themselves and how to build a brand around that to communicate with their customers. And so we do things like logo design, websites, things that are more traditional graphic design, but also brand strategy, messaging strategy. What do we say? How do we say it? And how do we communicate that? And then how does that strategic side get translated to the slightly more fun side of design, color, typography, and all that sort of stuff that creates a whole experience that people come in contact with when they communicate with a company.
That's awesome, Neil. And I guess I'd love to kind of, with our second round of questions, start with you, because I loved how you mentioned, working with these companies, tech companies, startups, growing companies to discover their brand. So why is marketing so important to tech companies? And why is that something that is really vital to kind of the growth and making sure that people can discover who they are? Because if people don't know you exist, you can't sell things.
Yeah, that's a great question. And we see a lot of tech companies are very technical because they're tech companies, but they're started by technical people that have a great idea. They are tackling a big problem that technology can help solve, but they may not be great at communicating that in everyday terms that people understand. And so what we do is help them translate all of that stuff to plain English, but then also have empathy for who they're talking to and empathy for the problems that their customers are trying to solve versus what they do, and translate all of what they do into ways that are meaningful and beneficial to the people that use the product, to help them see why that tech company is actually somebody they should work with or use their product.
I love that, Neil, and I saw a lot of heads nodding. So, Karen, maybe we'll start with you on, why, if you wouldn't mind, kind of going maybe from your perspective of the importance of being able to take those technical things, because I think something that I've heard very common for people interested in tech or maybe starting a business or wanting to build a startup at some point is, I'm not technical. Well, you have to have those both sides of the equation. You have to be able to build the technical solution. But if you can't translate it, which Nicole, you've also mentioned about, literally translating AI and some of the work you do at Pandata. But why is it important to have like both sides of that business represented? Because if you just have one or just have the other, you're probably not going to get very far.
That's a great question, Chris. And I've thought a lot about this myself. I came from the educational space into the financial services space, so I had to do a lot of education myself just to kind of get up to speed in the industry. And what I found in trying to translate some of those technical concepts or financial technical concepts to a marketplace is touching back on what Nicole mentioned about educating our customers, but also educating our market and really kind of getting into the mode of being a perpetual learner in this space. And, I found that just working with our clients directly and understanding where their knowledge gaps are or where their pain points are, what their needs are, even in developing our marketing communications materials to understand, okay, where do they need to even start to get to a place where they understand, the space that they're working in, some of the concepts that they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So it's been a kind of ongoing process where I've worked very closely with our customers and clients to develop some of our materials and kind of go through that education process together. So it's a work in progress, and I really enjoy it myself because I feel like I'm getting multiple degrees every day, just kind of going through the process of the work. So it's been fun.
Yeah, that's great, Karen. And Nicole, I'd love to get your perspective, because not only, in the work you get to do where you're, translating the work or showcasing the work of Pandata, your specific company, but you're literally taking an entire new emerging technology and artificial intelligence and making sure that people and businesses can understand its powers and its impact and its potential. So how do you think about it as you're going through that of, making sure that you're marketing an entire emerging tech into something that, the traditional business community or, folks that aren't into emerging tech can understand and utilize and adopt?
I think one of the most important things to note here is when people think about technology and technology careers, a lot of times marketing isn't necessarily the first thing that comes to your mind. It's, the more technical practitioner jobs. But from my perspective, marketing is equally as important as the technical jobs at any tech company. And it is that ability to translate from, or even understand in a lot of cases, the people that are sitting here on this call are business folks. So who better to understand and be able to translate the pain points of business people than other business people? So, having the ability to kind of be that bridge between the technical side and the business side is such an important piece of success in any technology company. So, this is kind of a roundabout way to answer your question, but the one thing that I can't evangelize enough is, there is a place in technology for marketing people and business people. And I don't think we talk enough about that. So I know that was kind of an ish answer, but I wanted to make sure that we covered that too.
No, that was perfect. And actually, that's a great segue into a question that, Steve, I'd love to pose to you, because you've mentioned with your company being around for 30 plus years and having to adopt new marketing methods to getting your message out there. Nicole, I think that's a perfect segue into the potential role and the potential impact young professionals, so high school or middle school students, as they're considering coming out in the career, how they communicate, how they discover information, how they learn is completely different than even 10 or 15 years ago. And so I think of things like Snapchat and TikTok and others that didn't exist 10 or 15 years ago, but it is a massive opportunity for telling stories, marketing services. And so, Steve, how has that been like for you at Accent, and over the years, having to discover these things and stay on top of new trends? And I kind of selfishly ask that for, teeing it up of, the impact that younger professionals and students specifically can have, where they can bring new ideas, because it's just areas that we're not necessarily familiar with.
Exactly. Yes, I appreciate the comment there. When we look at the way the industry has changed, I love talking to anyone that comes into our industry, because in 3 years, it's going to be totally different. And so I say, just get in and start to enjoy what we actually are doing. And many times when we look at the way we marketed, like you said, 15 years ago, it was the print ad that you're trying to put up maybe a static web page. And since then, of course, video's taken off. Now we've got the short form videos with Snapchat and TikTok, as you mentioned. And just keeping abreast of what is happening in the industry, we need the fresher minds to help us to do that. We have some long-term employees here do a great job on the engineering side, but to really be the bullhorn out there to amplify what we're actually doing for the end user, we need fresher ideas. And ironically, or coincidentally, I had someone in my office just yesterday, a younger guy, and he said, "Have you thought about doing, not having an influencer, but just maybe having a channel and just saying that you guys are sponsoring, Accent sponsoring?" I said, "I haven't thought of that." We like fresh ideas like that. And the newer guys that are coming up the ranks. So this is a college age person, but even younger people are getting involved in telecommunications without even knowing it, because we've had it around so long. It's just plays in the background. So
yeah, that's fantastic. Thanks, Steve. And now we're going to kind of go to a fun question as we're starting to wrap up our time for this conversation. But one thing I love asking pros, especially as we're talking to an audience of students, is a day in the life. What is a day in the life like for each of you? And I love that, because especially in tech, the days can look extremely different. And so for those that like, working on something new, discovering new things, and, going into work, sometimes knowing what you're going to be doing, other times not knowing what you're going to be doing because of the unknowns, tech can be a really exciting place. So Neil, if we wouldn't mind starting with you, what is a day in the life like for you at Nonfiction? And walk us through it a little bit, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. Every day is different, first of all, which is what I enjoy about my job, in that no day is the same, just because of client meetings and projects and deadlines, but also just because the variety of projects we work on. We get to learn about battery technology and radar technology and consumer startups and beverages and things like that. And so every single day we're learning something new. And for me personally, typically the mornings are spent working either directly on client work myself or with my team, and coming with ideas, working through different concepts, looking at designs that are more final, writing strategy, things like that. and afternoons are spent more in conversation with clients. That's the typical structure to my day, but the short answer is no day is the same. That's why it's interesting.
That's great. Nicole, and then we'll go to Steve and then Karen to wrap up this question.
Sure. So, I think my role as a COO, I'm doing a lot of different things on any given day. But my background is actually in marketing for over 20 plus years. So while I do all of the other things that a COO might do, marketing is also under, my domain. So putting that hat specifically on, I mean, every day is different. One day I may be creating a promotional video. Another day, or later that same day, I may be, working on tweaks to our website or working on a marketing campaign with our agency. My most favorite time is when I get to be head down and just be a creative. I love that piece of it. Even though what we're writing about is a lot of, very technical concepts, it's fun to see how you can bring a creative sort of slant to that. So all over the place, but that's what startup life is all about. And it's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, but it's a lot of fun. So I highly recommend getting into it.
That's great, Nicole. Thank you. Steve, how about you?
So a typical day, I'm like Neil as well. I love not knowing. I know I have a plan. I don't know how the plan's going to work out. And so I love having the change all the time. And because we deal with partners that resell our products across the country, there's all different types of activities that we're involved in. And so my marketing team is actually looking for events and articles and videos that we can broadcast to different industries. I help with that. And then since I'm on the sales side primarily, leading with sales, I support the marketing team. These marketing ideas are then tested very quickly. How successful are they to help generate sales and revenue? So we're on a fast clip here where we get to enjoy. Like this week, I've got 3 different events we're attending. How is this idea working out? And can we duplicate this for the next month? So that's a typical day here. And then be able to see how it resonates with clients and be able to have them tell us why they went with us, what intrigued them, so we can, again, repeat that story over and over again. That's my typical day.
That's great. Thank you, Steve. Karen.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, we've actually gone through a bit of a journey here at Joot. We started off very heavily focused on building brand awareness for our company. We're now about a 4-year-old startup, so still relatively young, not super young, but we've worked over the past several months and over the past year plus really to kind of build up that brand awareness for ourselves and put out a lot of content marketing around that effort. But we've recently shifted to doing more client work recently on the marketing side, which is really exciting because we're getting to work more closely with our clients from that angle and really kind of delving into their mission, their content marketing missions, and some of the goals that they're trying to reach from a marketing perspective. I would say the common thread between both of those, running through both of those efforts, is just writing ability, the ability to kind of like dig into content and write from scratch, really get excited about the stuff that you're working on and writing about. I've really enjoyed doing that myself. I feel like I've learned a ton. And, just kind of putting on your creative hat and letting those creative juices flow with your team and, working through some problems together, coming up with content ideas, different, graphic, illustrative ideas, web design ideas. All this stuff is a group effort, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's great, Karen. And Karen, Steve, Nicole, and Neil, thanks so much for sharing what all of you are working on in tech. And again, there's so much diversity to the types of jobs within the tech sector. What I personally love about the marketing communication side is you get to kind of see the entire company because you have to be able to sell everything you're doing. And knowing that backstory, you get to plug in a bunch of different places. And then you can also work on the public facing side of an organization, which is really, really neat. So you get to tell the story of your own company or some of your customers, which is an incredible place to be. So thank you all for tuning in to this Ohio Tech Day Marketing Careers Conversation. Again, to our 4 leaders for joining us today, thank you so much. Thanks for all you do for Ohio X and tech in Ohio. It certainly is an exciting time. We appreciate everyone for tuning in now. And of course, this will, as soon as this ends, it's now going to be on demand for students and teachers. If you want to come back and use this to explore, have more conversations about tech careers, marketing careers from this video specifically, it's going to be on our YouTube channel, one of those marketing tools where we can tell the stories of tech in our state. So thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for being here. I hope you all have a great Ohio Tech Day. And again, go on social media, share your Ohio Tech story, and let's get Ohio Tech trending today. So thank you, everyone. Have a great day, and let's keep celebrating. Bye-bye.